Sure. I am.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
And Shabbat Shalom to those of you who are watching us from wherever you may be on this wintry Friday evening, on this wintry Shabbat that may become more wintry as we go. Thank you for being with us. It's wonderful to celebrate Shabbat, to usher in Shabbat together. And the Shabbat that we celebrate right before Hanukkah, but it must be something I'm saying.
Let's back up a little bit.
You know what? I'm going to put this elsewhere.
Oh, yes, does that? Oh, no.
It's not that.
It's not that.
Technical
we
difficulties.
will try to figure this out. I'm sure that, at some point we will figure this out. But
I think they got it.
in spite of the technical difficulty, we will bring in Shabbat. We will usher in Shabbat. And I'd like to invite Danny Gross to help us with the lighting of the candles. Please turn with us to page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
We turn to page 7. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished? Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide. I now invite you to please rise and join us for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד יברח חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו, יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם עולול מהלוויה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ויאמרו. ברכו את אדוני המבורך,
Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praised be Adonai, to whom praise is due, now and forever. We turn to page 32. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Please join me. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty, forever and ever. Please be seated and join us in the chanting of the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Please join me on page 37. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. And on page 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. That there is a better place, a promised land. That the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands, marching together.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osei fele, nora tehilot osei fele. Malechutecha ra'u v'necha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, zeili anu v'yamru. Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, le'olam.
We turn to page 43. Please join me at the top of the page. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. מקדשי שביעי שבת כולם.
we prepare for the Amidah, I invite you to turn to pages 46 and then 48 and 50, and to please rise and join us.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi tehillatech. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chastei avot ve'imahot, U'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, L'ma'an shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer Moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol Atah, Rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach, Umorid hagashem. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei holim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol.
On page 53, days pass and years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. On page 61, grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Together, bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael, v'shalom.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam.
we take this moment for silent prayer and meditation.
Oh, say shalom bimromav. Oh, say shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Well, since I'm holding this microphone and I'm not tethered to these microphones of the pulpit, do you mind if I step a little bit closer to you? I'm going to take the liberty of stepping a little bit closer to you to share a few thoughts about the Torah portion, if that's okay. Thank you. And I'd like to share a few thoughts with you about the story we know so well. The Torah portion this week is the Torah portion Vayeshev, which starts in Genesis chapter 37. And it's the Torah portion that's dominated by the early life of Joseph. It starts out with the phrase Vayeshev Yaakov Be'eretz Canaan. Joseph's father, Jacob, was residing in Canaan, and immediately it goes into the offspring of Jacob. And right within the first verse, Vayosef ben 17 shana, Joseph was 17 years old, and the whole story that unfolds is really the story of Joseph. And we know the story of Joseph, and we don't need to really retell the story of Joseph. But it may be helpful for us to rethink about the story of Joseph, and there are maybe elements of the story of Joseph we don't really think about. So the overall outlines of the story of Joseph, we know. Joseph annoyed his brothers, and his brothers didn't like him and grew to hate him, and eventually hated him so much that when he went looking for them and found them, they undressed him, threw him into a pit, and eventually sold him on to slavery to Midianites, who took him to Egypt. Toward the end of the Torah portion, Joseph is in Egypt, and the very end of the Torah portion in Vayeshev is Joseph having been forgotten in prison. That's a great story. But it's also a hopeful story, because that's not the end of the story. We know what happens in the next week's Torah portion, and somehow something happens that alters the dynamic of the early story of Joseph. But when we read the story of Joseph, there are all these other elements that come in that, generally speaking, we don't think about. Jacob and his family reside in the city of Hebron. And according to this story, after Joseph we learn, is 17 years old and has been annoying his brothers and has been increasingly hated by his brothers. The brothers go off with a herd to Shechem, to Nablus, and Jacob says to Joseph, "Would you please go up to your brothers and see how they're doing, and look after the peace of your brothers, and see how everything is going." And Joseph says, "Hineni, here I am. Send me. Let me go." And it's lovely, it's wonderful that Joseph would go off to see his brothers and see how things are going, and that things are going well, except that Hebron is approximately 90 kilometers from Nablus, 55 miles. And Joseph is going around in his multicolored coat on his own, 55 miles. This 17-year-old was sent by his father to go 55 miles from the middle of the Judean desert, Hebron, to Nablus. I don't know what you're thinking about this, but I know what my wife would tell me if I were to send my teenager 50 foot, just go walk to Nablus, maybe you'll find them, look after their peace. We read this part of the story and we think to ourselves, what was he thinking? This is dangerous. Not only that, he's going with his multicolored coat. Who's wearing multicolored coats? It's in the desert, you know, between Hebron and Nablus. It's like it's as if he's holding a sign. Look at me, I'm on my own, walking out here in the wilderness. Goes off to Nablus. And lo and behold, the brothers are not there. There's no one there. He's looking and looking, he can't find them. And then he encounters an Ish, according to the biblical passage. Rashi, the commentator, believes that he encountered the angel Gabriel. But this encounter of the Ish, of this person, in this encounter, the person says, "What are you looking for? You're on your own here. What are you looking for?" And he says, "I have come looking for my brothers." Et ahai avakesh. I am coming looking for brotherhood. I am coming looking for my brothers. Now, between Jacob sending Joseph out to seek the peace of his brothers, and Joseph now telling us he is seeking his brothers, we are perhaps, according to the rabbis, starting to understand the state of mind of Joseph. Joseph perhaps is looking to repair the relationship with his brothers. He is perhaps really looking for them, looking for the opportunity to get back with his brothers. The brothers are not there. And this man says, "Oh, I overheard something. They went off to a place called Dotan. Vayelchu Dotaina. They went to a place called Dotan." Now, Dotan, that's very nice that they went somewhere else. That's another 20 miles up north. For you to understand, Hebron is in the middle of the Judean desert. Nablus is in Samaria, and Dotan, the valley of Dotan, is near the current Palestinian city of Jenin, in the very north of the West Bank. That's another 20 miles. So this child, this 17-year-old child, goes another 20 miles up north. Do you know how long it takes to walk 70, 75 miles? Well over a day. Without eating, drinking, stopping, sleeping, well over a day. Great. Right? And he arrives to see his brothers, and even before he comes near them, Terem Yikrav, it says, before he ever comes near the brothers, Vayitnaklu oto lahamito, they conspired, they decided, they determined to kill him. And of course, the rest of the story follows. They come upon him, they undress him, they throw him into the pit. We may ask all kinds of questions. They were going to Shechem. Their father Jacob sent the brothers to Shechem with a herd. Why did they not stay in Shechem? Why did they have to go further up north? What were they doing going up north? I mean, there's a whole number of questions that we may ask ourselves. But I want us to think about this story for a moment and think about a few learnings that we may gather from this story. Learnings with regard to this dysfunctional story. Learnings that we may gather with regard to this story of strife and of terrible injustice that is eventually done to Joseph. In fact, I think I want to share with you 7 insights into this story. First, as the story unfolds, we think to ourselves, what is Jacob thinking? Sending this child onto the world, this 17-year-old, to walk on his own to find his brothers. And the story delivers to us a message, and the message is, wait a minute, let's think about where the real danger is. Is the danger really in the environment? Is it really outside? Is it really out there? Or is it among the people who are closest to Joseph? Among the people with whom he really is in relationship? Among those people whom really he ought to trust, who at the end of the day are his siblings, or the people he ought to be able to rely upon. Where is the danger here in the story? What do we learn about danger and where danger lurks? That's insight number 1. Insight number 2. Joseph may be going out there with a view to meeting his brothers and maybe reconciling with them. After all, he's going on a mission to look after the peace of his brothers. But the brothers have moved on. The siblings have moved on. The siblings won't even listen to him. Before he's ever come near them, they have already decided what they're going to do. In other words, this is a story of complete and tragic misalignment. A misalignment between Joseph and his brothers. One side of the story, here Joseph is thinking, I'm just going to go see my brothers. Maybe I can repair this. The other side will have nothing to do with it. Had Jacob known, would he have sent Joseph? Had Joseph known, would he have gone, given this misalignment? There's a third insight that emerges out of this story. in the context of this dysfunction and of what really starts to emerge here as a Greek tragedy before the story gets better. What if? What if? What if Joseph had found his siblings in Shechem, a big city with lots of people, and maybe the brothers and their herds would not be secluded somewhere in the countryside because they were surrounded with people. They might not have been able to do what they had really wanted to do because they'd be seen by other people. They'd be discovered. What if they had remained in Shechem? What if they had remained in Nablus? What if he had not met that person that guided Joseph to his brothers in Dothan, another 20 miles up north? What if the story had unfolded differently? What if he had returned home saying to his father, "Oh, sorry, I couldn't find them. I tried my best. I couldn't find them." What if? What if? We don't know. There's yet another learning here that I think is a significant learning. What do we make of the brothers? The brothers were on their own, going out to care for their herds. And all of them agreed that they hated Joseph, that he was awful, that he was terrible, that Joseph was the problem. And that at the end of the day, what we needed to do was to get rid of the problem. Get rid of Joseph. Joseph is a problem. Get rid of Joseph. Everything will be fine. You know, we often think like this. She's the problem. He's the problem. Get rid of them. We can fix this. Everything is going to be okay. Yeah, Saddam Hussein is a problem. Get rid of Saddam Hussein. Iraq will be a wonderful Western democracy. Everything will go great. Just get rid of Saddam Hussein. Everything. Gaddafi is the problem. Get rid of Gaddafi. Right? Everything will be okay. We can fix this. Just get rid of the problem. Fix the problem. Right? And it's a kind of groupthink. Oh, yeah, we know. This guy, not right. Let's fix this. Let's get rid of this guy. But groupthink is not always good think. And sometimes this kind of echo chamber thinking, coupled with the opportunity and the power and the agency to act, can cause real harm. It did to Joseph. That's yet another insight. And then there is yet one more thing I want to share with you, I want to raise with us. The unintended consequences. Everything was going to be fine. We were going to get rid of Joseph, and the brothers were thinking, Dad will get over it. Jacob will get over it. Everything will be good. He will love us more. We will be better treated. The family will come back together because this guy will be out of the picture. Okay, we can get over this. Yeah, we're going to be in kind of a crisis, but if we stick to our guns, we stick to our story, we do our thing, everything will be okay. The consequences will be good. But the consequences didn't work out quite the way they thought these consequences might work out. Jacob fell into depression, into mourning he could not emerge out of. The dysfunction of the family was not resolved. There was not more love for the brothers. Things didn't quite work out the way they thought they might work out. There are unintended consequences. And sometimes they could be foreseen, and other times they're difficult to foresee. And it's just the way things are. But at the end of the day, there is yet another lesson to the Joseph story. Joseph is done a terrible injustice. Joseph is oppressed, ejected from the family, sold to slavery, and is completely out of the picture now. But somehow, mysteriously, things work out. There is yet another lesson to the Joseph story. And the lesson is that even in the worst of crisis, within a family, within any setting wherein people are close, in the context of the greatest pain, in the context of the greatest of difficulties, in the context of the greatest of darkness, even when we can't quite see it, somehow there is still hope. Who would have thought that Joseph would rise to prominence? Who would have thought that the family would reunite? Who would have thought that Joseph would be the source of redemption for the rest of his family? Who would have thought that things would turn in completely unforeseen and unpredictable ways? The lesson of our story is hope. Even when we can't quite see how things are going to work out. We are about to light the first candle of Hanukkah on Sunday evening. And here is what I ask of you this Shabbat. Light a candle for yourself and for the world in the midst of darkness. Light a candle of hope, of goodness in the midst of confusion. Light a candle for the future in the midst of our present. Light a candle of Hanukkah and see that candle of Hanukkah turn into 2 candles and 3 candles and 4 candles and experience the light of the coming week increase. And may this light of Shabbat and the light of Hanukkah and the light and the hope of the Joseph story inspire us in the midst of this winter, in the midst of the dark, and in the midst of so much dysfunction that we so often experience around us. There is always light. There must always be light. There must always be hope. Shabbat Shalom. Speaking of light and hope, we want to bring light and hope to those people who are ailing, to those who are in need of a special blessing, to those who are in need of support, to those who are in need of greater goodness. And so, as you think of those who are in need of a special blessing, I invite you to please utter their names. And to those names, we will add the names of those that you have shared with us already. And we will turn to page 253 and sing the Mishaberach together. We're going to get the names, if that's okay.
Okay. Bob Shippey?
To these names, we add the names of Alan Belkin, Barry Cott, Matty Jefferson, Barry Liff, Walter McCoy, Laurie Merkin, Gita Lea Bat-Tzvi Hirsch, Richard Moore, Betty Pickus, Jocelyn Prince, Edith and Levi Rubenstein. We mentioned Bob Shippey and Robert Wilkoff. Let us turn to page 253 and join together in the Mishaberach.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Amen. Let us now turn to page 282, and I invite you to please rise for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא אסונו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, ויגור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום
At this moment in our service, please be seated. At this moment in our service, our minds turn to those whom we have lost, upon whose shoulders we stand, and who in their various ways remain with us. We especially think of those who were laid to rest within this last week and for whom we are within the Shiva period. Robert Bob Snow Sosnowski, and we take into our hearts those who were laid to rest within the last 30 days, for whom we are within the Shloshim period. Kimberly D. Woodring, Guy Bonet, Myron Mike Bernstein, Gladys Elaine Cavell, Donna Marie O'Brien Coates, Jacqueline Sadock, Dr. Harvey A. Schlesinger, DDS, Elaine Weiss, Elaine Goss, Gerald A. Jerry Strom, and Shirley Wolf. And we recall with love and fondness those whose yahrzeits occur at this time. Hortense Aub, Samuel L. Aub, Senta R. Berger, Celia W. Beigelson, Saul R. Bing, Julia Bolt, Saul Bolt, Etta Bonoff, Augusta Brennan, Thomas Brennan, Liba H. Dempsey, Leo Dempsey, Ava Engelman, Doris Sands Eisner, Alice Scherzer-Felder, Adeline Felsman, Preston Trask Fisher, Bernice Fleischer, Janet C. Frankel, Jenny Koblitz Frankel, Arthur E. Friedman, Minnie Foldauer, Daniel Goldstein, Robert Goldstein, Dr. Joseph H. Goodman, Irma Gross Green, Leah K. Gross, Joseph Hayes, Avram Hazinuk, Samuel Kangisser, Ethel W. Kendis, Eileen Klein, Adolf Kohn, Sigmund Korak, Edna S. Krauss, Lawrence Krauss, Stephen L. Krauss, Dr. Harvey Krieger, Carl Lewin, Elaine Loveman, Dorothy Lyons, Herman V. Markman, Mildred Meltzer, Arthur J. Miller, Private Herbert Neubauer, Jerome James Newman, Leo Edwin Oppenheimer, Sadie Price, Flora Rosenberg, Ben Rosenwater, Berna A. Rubin, Robert Louis Saslaw, Ignatius Schoenberger, Lois M. Shore, Kenneth A. Schwartz, Kenneth H. Schwartz, Charles M. Schwartz Jr., Bessie Schowitz, Edith Cohn Shields, Mort S. Silberger, Naomi Greenfield Singer, Edith I. Stein, Judge Alfred L. Stoyer, Julian Stoyer, Nellie Stoyer, Edwin Strauss, Esther Sugarman, Isabel Zweig Suit, Marcia Susan Teitelbaum, Rachel Seidman Unger, Catherine S. Wegline, Adolf Weinberger, Ivan Weinstock, Edward I. Weisberg, Sarah Fagan Weiss, Isadore D. Wertheimer, Joseph Lehman Witt, and Dr. Jacob L. Josper. If there are names of people whom you are at this moment thinking of and mourn, or if I mispronounced any of the names on this list, I invite you to please utter these names now that we may recite the Kaddish in the honor of our loved ones. If at this moment you are mourning the passing of a loved one who's been laid to rest within the last 7 days, and are within the Shiva period, I invite you at this time to please rise. If at this time you are mourning the passing of a loved one who's been laid to rest within the last 30 days, if you are within the Shloshim period, I invite you now to please rise. If you are marking a yahrzeit at this time, I invite you now to please rise. And now, as a caring congregation, let us all rise and turn to page 294 so that we may recite the Kaddish together. Please join me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash mei Rabba, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomeichon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam ul'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam Rabba min shmaya v'chayim. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace and comfort bring peace and comfort to us and to all who mourn. And let us together say, Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. It has become our custom to follow these moments of remembrance with moments of celebration, with Shehechianu moments, with moments of achievement, with moments that represent the continuity of life. And I would like to offer us an opportunity to celebrate these particular moments. We don't have to celebrate any particular moments that we may wish to celebrate that are special Shehechianu moments. Does anyone wish to share anything with us here in the congregation?
I do.
You do, Harriet.
Straight A's.
Straight A's. My goodness. Harriet, you're not proud of your granddaughter. No, you're not at all proud of your granddaughter. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. Well done. Well done. Anything else? Blaze.
Last week is my house girlfriend's birthday.
Oh, Mazel tov. How wonderful. How wonderful. Anything else here that we ought to celebrate? Well, there is something else that we ought to celebrate. And Larry Friedman, who's in the back, Larry and his late wife, Nancy, want to announce to us that their granddaughter has become engaged to be married. And we congratulate her on her engagement, as well as her finishing her pediatric residency at Penn. And her fiancé is also finishing his residency in medicine. So this is going to be another medical family. And we are looking forward to celebrating their wedding with them and many, many wonderful, happy returns to them and much joy in this great moment to the family of Larry and Mimi, to the entire family. How wonderful. Anything else? Going once? Well, let us join together in the Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kimanu v'hihiyanu lazman hazeh.
Amen. Our closing song is, I believe, Ein Keloheinu.
It is. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadoneinu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kmoshienu, mi Keloheinu, mi Kadoneinu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kmoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, nodel Adoneinu, nodel Malkeinu, nodel Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Will you please join me? Let us do the Kiddush and the Motzi together. Please join us.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava uvratzon inchilanu. זיכרון למעשי בראשית, כי הוא יום תהילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנפלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן.
L'chaim.
לחיים. Ready?
I'm ready.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen. I wish all of us a Shabbat of light and a Shabbat of hope. In this moment of darkness and of winter, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. See, this is